Take the middle path. These days, many people are familiar with the term the middle way. Even my brother, who is a medical scientist and not inclined in any way to religious belief, often uses this term to refer to a temperate or moderate approach that avoids all extremism. Gautama Buddha taught the path of the middle way, and so you might very well ask yourself, exactly what does it mean to tread the middle path? Well, depending on which version of the Katyayana Sutra you accept, there are two ways to interpret the meaning of the middle way, and these correspond to the two principal traditions or vehicles of the Buddha Dharma, namely the Hinayana and the Mahayana. The meaning expressed in the Pali Canon is, the middle way is the path that does not fall to the extreme of intense ascetic practice, such as self-mortification, nor to the extreme of opulence or overindulgence in sensual pleasure. Now, it is known that these two types of extreme practice were widespread in India at the time of the Buddha. Mahavira, patriarch of the Jain sect, who lived around the time of the Buddha, achieved awakening through practicing intense austerity. And in the end, it is taught that in pursuit of that spiritual path, he perished from self-starvation, as had both his parents before him. Many have heard the account of the time when for 6 years, Prince Siddhartha, who was to become the fourth Buddha of our fortunate eon, was practicing yogic austerity on the banks of the river Niranjana, when he heard the advice given by a music teacher to his student as they crossed the river in a small boat. The master explained if the strings of the lute were either too tight or too loose, then the instrument would not produce a pleasant note. By this, the Prince Siddhartha realized that even if he were to practice self-mortification until the day he died, this would not help him to reach his goal of final enlightenment and emancipation from samsara. Conversely, the ancient Lokayata, or Indian hedonist tradition, indulged with bacchanalian fervor in their enjoyment of the sense pleasures. They claim that consciousness merely arises from the elements and will dissolve back into them at the time of death, and so there is no point in pursuing a spiritual path. Rather, one must enjoy this life, unrestrained and to its fullest, whilst one still can. Prince Siddhartha himself had personal experience of the unrestrained enjoyment of luxury. His father, King Suddhodana, in an attempt to distract the prince from seeking a spiritual path, tried to ensure that his son never in his life experienced hardship, but only happiness and pleasure. And so the prince had personal experience of just how getting carried away by the sense pleasures becomes an obstacle to any spiritual progress. In the Mahayana scriptures, in the Tibetan and Chinese tradition, the meaning of the sutra is largely identical except for one important point. Here the meaning of the middle way is the middle path that lies between the extremes of nihilism and eternalism. In fact, the core meaning is the same. It is merely that the Hinayana tradition focuses primarily on conduct, whereas the Mahayana focuses primarily on the view. And so what exactly are these extreme views of nihilism, or non-existence, and eternalism, or existence? The view of eternalism primarily concerns theistic or religious beliefs in a God who is permanent and the creator of the universe and everything in it. Further, this view poses various metaphysical problems, such as, how can a permanent and unchanging entity relate to the mundane world that is impermanent and changing? But also, if such a God is the creator of everything, then is God causeless and eternal? And if not, then who or what created God? But one should never look down on the theistic view, because quite frankly, no one has ever come up with a better solution to the mystery of creation, not even science. Not only that, but Leibniz, the creator of infinitesimal calculus, of whom the famous philosopher and mathematician Bertrand Russell claimed was probably the most intelligent human being that has ever lived. Leibniz stated that an acceptance of God is necessary in order to avoid this problem of infinite regression. For instance, if the Big Bang created the universe, then where did the Big Bang come from? As far as a nihilistic view is concerned, then this is the view that things happen randomly without a cause. In relation to the Buddhist doctrine, it denies the existence of karma, cause and effect, past and future lives, and also liberation. The aforementioned Lokayata, or ancient hedonist tradition, maintains this kind of view. But one could also say that this is the view of many scientists and psychologists these days, who claim, respectively, that matter can be created randomly without a cause, that there is no such thing as consciousness, but that consciousness is a mere side effect of random genetic evolution. And it is not like the question of the two extreme views is only a concern for metaphysics and philosophy. Theoretical physicists have no choice but to address these questions as to whether the universe is composed of permanent and unchanging quantum particles that have existed in certain quantities since time immemorial and have an infinite lifespan, or whether the universe was created randomly out of nothing. Although it is commonly maintained that particles can be created randomly, for the most part then scientists agree that for this process to occur, We need the laws of physics to already be in place. So in terms of the Hinayana tradition, this middle way is a conduct-oriented path of moderation. In terms of the Mahayana, this is not principally about conduct, but concerns a philosophical outlook that is free from these extreme views that lead to unsolvable metaphysical paradoxes. But there is yet another way of presenting this middle way, and that is from the perspective of meditation. And I maintain that this is the ultimate presentation of the middle way that is synonymous with the resultant state of Mahamudra and Dzogchen. Just why this is the final and ultimate interpretation of the middle way is that in regards to the Buddhist perspective, the only thing that can be said with any certainty is that appearances arise to the subjective consciousness. And this is not just the Buddhist perspective, but also is a position that is commonly held by many Western philosophers. For instance, appearances of forms and sounds, etc., can arise in dreams and also in hallucinations. But these have no external reference or objective sources of perception. So there is the middle way in terms of these three: conduct, view, and meditation. But exactly what is this meditation that is free from the two extremes will not be covered in this video. It is described variously as a resting in non-referential compassion, free of all elaborations, or resting in the true nature of phenomena. But in general, these words are not much use to us. And ultimately, this can only be recognized in the subjective awareness of the individual. Ancillary to this discussion, there is, as far as I can see, a way in which this middle way philosophy fits neatly into the modern scientific paradigm regarding relativity, quantum mechanics, and chaos theory. I have for some time been trying to write a book on this very topic, on just how the horizons of science, philosophy, and religious belief all meet in the twilight of metaphysical paradoxes. So far this task seems nearly impossible to achieve and something quite beyond my ability. However, I will say the one thing I have in my favor is that because of dumb luck, or possibly good karma, I've had the good fortune to meet an authentic teacher, and on the basis of this have gained some slight insight into this thing we call the nature of phenomena. Regarding that, I have great confidence, and the more I investigate, whether that be modern physics or Western philosophy, the more my confidence grows stronger. That this wisdom that the Gautama Buddha discovered through the process of awakening more than 2,500 years ago is the true nature of all phenomena. May auspiciousness fill the universe, and see you later, meditator.